wanted to say, first of all, thank you. I am totally honored to be your incoming president. And over the next year, we're going to try a few new things. This is part of it, to try to communicate better. These are some things that Gary Smith and I have been working on, and I want to highlight them. We want to try to keep this fairly brief and still try to address some of the concerns people have of what's going on and where we are at, and as far as the GM search and things like that. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that, but I also, from the annual meeting, took away a couple of things that I really want to come back with. First of all, we have to really understand how much this club has been through for the last several years. And I think we get caught up in the immediate, that things were very good. And we really were in a position of a lot of problems from the past. We haven't been raising dues for a long period of time until just recently. We hadn't been investing in our club until just recently. We were able to work from a position of strength until, as Brandy pointed out at the annual meeting, and Gary Smith did, we had such a beating from inflation. 21 in restaurants in Boise alone shut down, a growth city. This is not a problem unique to Hillcrest. It's totally a problem in any service, especially restaurants. Everything we do at Hillcrest, the budget has exploded. Inflation is very heavy on things like fertilizer for the golf course. It's incredible on the wages. But these particular problems are being addressed. We are catching up. And one of the things that kind of came out at the meeting was this idea that we don't have a captain of the ship, and we do. Granted, when the club blew up in July, and it did, we were then backed into the Boise Open. It's nearly a panic situation to keep employees. And everybody who's trying to keep employees is paying more and more and more. So at that time, we clearly overstaffed. The weather was terrible, so the patio was overstaffed all the time. It was so hot. But those problems have been addressed. And second of all, I want to point out that Brandy has been released, if you will, to really run the club as her club. We're still looking for a general manager, but Brandy has embraced the job, and things like inventory and cost controls on labor have been contained very well in the past 3 months, and it's really showing up in the numbers. And so those of you that dig into the numbers, then you will see that as well. So the idea that we're not trying different things is absolutely, I just wanted to put that to rest. Now, if I could, I want to talk about some of the achievements here and not go back through the annual meeting, because I think that we need to recognize some of the things that have been done just over the past 5 years. And since 2018, Hillcrest has invested in its club $5.6 million, actually, in capital improvements, not in operations, in capital improvements. Everything from a parking lot, a state-of-the-art sprinkler system out back, patio, all of these other things, and the things behind the wall that we don't see. And I've said this 4 times in 4 years at annual meetings. We have got to fund what we can't see. We have to have a 10-year plan. We are data-driven. We are trying to not wait for things to break. We want to fix them before they do. It requires investment, and we have been investing. We are not in the cash position we wanted to be in or budgeted for at the beginning of 22. And you know what? Nobody is that's in this business. They just aren't close. Costs are really high, and we had a major disruption in the middle of the year. But we are clearly back on track regarding that. As far as the 15% increases, I don't want to pay it either, but we have to. There's no question that we have to play catch up here. As far as the debt goes, we would have been able to repay the debt, ballpark, if we had simply raised dues since 2008 by 5% per year. That would have generated $3.5 million worth of additional dues that we don't have now. Cost cutting in the past is cost cutting. In an amenities-driven business, we need to be careful with that. This board has been diligent in looking at every single opportunity to cut costs, to figure out where we can. But that, on one hand, it's a very dangerous thing to be thinking about. What do you want to give up? What service do you want to give up? Well, we don't. We're an amenities-driven business, and they are looking for efficiencies at every turn, every single turn. None of us wants to give up any service, and that's the commitment that Gary and his board made last year, is to not give up the services and to keep the company running, even with inflation eating us alive. It's not just inflation, and there are some controls that have been put into place. Inventory is back under control. As I mentioned, labor is under control. And these efficiencies, again, hats off to Brandy and her team for pulling this together. We really appreciate it. But I want you to understand, you can go to our website and understand we are driven by capital expenses, first and foremost by the 10-year plan, by the capital plan that was put into place 4 years ago. We're going to stick to that. We have to invest in the club. We can't cut our way to prosperity, and we won't. That's our pledge to you as a board. And the second piece of this particular Zoom or whatever information piece that I want to put out, we're going to talk in more detail, because a lot of questions have come up on the pay down of our debt. I want to talk in more detail. I don't necessarily want to make this a long, drawn out Zoom meeting. I just want to inform everybody of what we're doing right now and use this platform going forward rather than just newsletters once a month. So if you have suggestions for what you want to learn about, also tell us that. But if you also want to learn and dive deeper as to what the debt situation is, we're going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes on a separate Zoom. So look for that attachment coming in your email very soon. Thank you, and we will post these on the website as well in the future. So if you're not available at noon or whatever on Thursday when we do our active Zoom and answer questions, that's fine. The answers and everything else will be available later. With that, have a great rest of the day. And once again, thank you so much. And a special shout out to Gary Smith, who has spent an incredible amount of hours since our general manager left in July, and to Ty Anderson for his great mentorship. So thank you again. Have a great rest of the day.